Okay, so I think we discussed about the recapitulates and how the basics of the differences between the rich and the poor countries, and this has encouraged or be induced this analysis of a steady state growth for the exogenous models, and the how Harrod and Dormer model has talked about the Keynesian assumptions, and also how they have given the emphasis on the saving part, which is important for utilizing this initial stock of the capital, and also in their analysis saving must be equals to investment. So they're further talking about that initial capital may also have an increment, but at the every time of increment, they will this will generate the rate of depreciation also in the economy. So the rate of capital is stock. When changes over time, there would also be some rate of depreciation which would occur. Now I'm continuing from this particular slide. So I guess from this we should discuss again. So this was given by Harrod and Dormer. The Roy Harrod, he belongs to England, and the Professor Avazay Dormer, he belongs to USA. They have given this theory in the year 1950. The theory was developed in the reaction of the Keynesian analysis. We all know what was the Keynesian analysis, and this was in the response of the Great Depression period in the year 1930, and then this theory came up in the year 1936. So the Keynesian analysis says that there should be some government interference in the economy which can control, the laissez-faire system and the automatic adjustments which are happening in the market in terms of the prices, in terms of the buyers and the sellers interaction. So whenever you will control it through the government interference, you will definitely control such situations of the recession or the period of drug or the market failure. So the Keynesian reaction says that the most important thing, which is the Keynes was saying the most important thing was the effective demand principle. Okay, so to reach on the effective demand, there's an important thing, that is the aggregate demand and the aggregate supply. So both are important, even according to Harrod and Dormer. So the aggregate demand and the aggregate supply, that is also the part of Harrod and Dormer's analysis. But when you analyze the whole model, you will find it that the Harrod and Dormer's analysis went up for the supply side economy rather demand side economy. So this is the basic part which is actually talking about the assumptions of it and how this model get formulates. Okay, it means we do talk about only capital efficiency, productive capacity, and also how the supply will be converted into the investment to arrive at the level of steady state. So that whole idea is actually not giving anything for the demand generation. So that is why this went up for only the supply side economy. So we do consider here, but here in case of Keynesian analysis, yes, of course, they focus on aggregate demand too, but we cannot say that Harrod and Dormer is also not talking about this aggregate demand. But ultimately, this theory is revealing this supply side only. That is why there was an amendment in this theory later on by Harrod and Dormer's extension, and that was given for the developing countries. Because all supply side theories went up for developed countries analysis. Fine. So theory is basically, wait. Okay. So Herod argues that the Keynes neglected the role of saving. Okay, they've given that yes, income, which in response to the income, there could be the multiplier effect in the economy, and then you can increase the effective demand principle. But the Herod says that the saving is an important part. So whatever saving is there in the economy would convert it into the investment. But this saving, if you will save today more, then only you will consume more in the future. It means you are not actually consuming more in the present. So you need to save more. Okay. So this saving would be compared today with the given capital stock, and this capital stock will have an increment based on the saving you are converting into the investment. Domer maintains that the Keynes ignored the immediate effect of investment, the accumulation of physical capital goods. The Keynes is talking about a multiplier effect. Okay, so this would come, give you the effects in the long run. But there should also be a point of consideration, that is the accumulation of capital. The accumulation of capital is important with the analysis of marginal efficiency of capital, or we say that is the analysis of depreciation. It means whenever there is a k t plus 1, it means a capital stock which is given to you, that is being analyzed. This is giving you the increment capital, and this increment capital is generating some depreciation. So of course this is an accumulation, but at the same time there is some junking ratio which is working out in the economy. So this depreciation would lower the growth also. Okay, so though both, even the Keynes, Harrod, and Dormer, they all are talking about the constant returns to scale, but they do also accept this depreciation portion, which is generated through this accumulation of capital. Harrod Dormer emphasized on full employment and the national aggregate. So yes, of course, the national aggregates are there, but those are not in the gross terms. Okay, they are in the net terms. So if you are considering the difference between a gross and net, it means the net terms is revealing that there is no depreciation. If there is a gross term, you are considering the subtractions of the depreciation into the analysis. And the full employment is important because over and above this full employment, whenever you are utilizing your resources, this will enhance the cost of production. So that is also important. And this full employment is also determining the total aggregate demand and aggregate supply. If both are equal, then only you can determine this level of situation. So Harrod exactly focusing on the dual role of investment. Okay, he's saying that the income definitely will have a multiplier effect, but this is starting from the income. So once it is coming from the income, and this income is actually the induced income according to this Harrod. So Harrod is basically focusing on the accelerative part, and then only he will reach on the effective demand. And capital stock is the second component of it. It's not only the income which is giving you this effective demand. See, this portion is exactly missing in the whole analysis. If you will go with it, there is an assumption, of course, from income to you are reaching to the effective demand principle. Once your real income or the income is rising, this is giving you the more standard of living, and then you can generate more your demand. But this aspect is actually not the part of Harrod's analysis, but Harrod has assumed it. Yes, the induced income is giving you the more income, and then this effective demand would be generated in the economy. But the second portion of the investment, that is more important in terms of Harrod's analysis, the capital stock, which is giving you what the productive capacity. So this capital stock, he is actually has a meaning that it is a capital output ratio. Okay, and this capital output ratio, whenever is being utilized, every time within every stage, it is giving you some productive capacity. Now our job is to see that this productive capacity is giving you the growth in the economy. Okay, so the growth which he is mentioning in his growth fundamentals, like the actual growth and also this warranted growth and the natural growth, all are talking about to enhance this productive capacity. So this dual role of income is there, of course, but the more focus is given on this portion. Okay, then what are the general assumptions given by this Harrod's analysis? The first assumption we have, that is the full employment. Okay, that is because as Keynesian, some assumptions have been taken up as similar. So this was also the assumption of the Keynesian analysis. And why this is important? Because they would like to analyze the period of inflation, boom, recession, all the fluctuations in the economy. So that is why if you would like to use your entire potential, then you need to reach on the path of full employment. No government interference. So this assumption of Keynesian analysis has been dropped over here. So they are considering this laissez-faire system. So moreover, they would like to follow the more classical rather than neoclassical assumptions. We have a closed economy, that is the exogenous factor do not influence the growth variables. The exogenous factors, what we have here, the first, we are talking about the Harrod's exogenous factor. We call it the neutrality factor. And this neutrality criticality factor shows that the some the factors are given to you. The one is the technology, which is given to the analysis. So these technological factors would definitely cooperate you in the production function as a constant way, in a constant way, but this will not affect the analysis. It means every time in a constant proportion, this may rise, but the whole function would not be affected by this. So that is why it is an exogenous factor. So your growth variables, whatever you are including in your production function, would not be affected through that. Similarly, the labor growth is also exponentially determined from outside. So that is also affecting, from outside as an exogenous factor to the production function. No lags in the adjustments. We have savings, investments, income, expenditure. They do adjust themselves in the same period. The reason behind it, we are taking the ex post and the ex ante analysis, which is both are equal. So there is no lag. So whatever saving would be further and whatever saving is today, that will have, the immediate, adjustments. They will not have any lags. The reason behind it, because in our analysis, all relative analysis and also the absolute analysis are similar. So that is why there is no gap. Any change in saving brings about the corresponding change in investment in the same period. So saving is the most important part, both even Harrod and Dormer's case. The Harrod says that if you will focus on saving today, this saving, okay, this saving is actually the source of sacrificing your consumption today. Now, why you want to sacrifice this consumption? Because you need to save for your future generation. And this saving would help you to reach on the steady state path. Now, this steady state is available to you in the long run. So you need to reach in the long run, and then only your consumption, your saving and investment, all the variables would be now equals. It means whatever you do save, that will be converted into the consumption. But today, this saving has to be equals to or must be equals to investment to save your future generation or to make your future generation happy. There is the concept APS, or average propensity of consumption, the relative analysis, the saving to income ratio, and this marginal propensity to your income ratio. Okay, the marginal propensity to save. So both are equals to each other, as we were mentioning that we do not have any lag in these periods. So they do adjust themselves with each other. So we do consider this absolute and this relative analysis both are equals to each other. Propensity to save and capital coefficient, it means capital output ratio will remain constant. So this is important. Every time the capital output ratio will remain constant in their analysis, though there is the some generation of, or we say the every time there is a capital stock will have an increment, there will be some depreciation would occur. There is a law of constant returns to scale, which is going to operate in the whole analysis, not only with the capital output ratio, but all the parameters and all the variables. So the income, investment, savings are defined in the net sense, as I was mentioning. They're not talking about the gross, and if there is a gross, then you are reducing this depreciation part. So they do believe, yes, there is some occurrence of the depreciation in that case. Then saving and investments are equal in extent and export sense. That is why there is no absolute and a relative difference, and functional equality exists between saving and investment. Okay, so when S is equals to I, that is similar, and SE is equals to IE. So expected term is also the similar, what we assume today. So the idea is basically whatever you will save today, okay, if you'll channelize or convert the same into the total investments of the economy, then the future savings and investment will go in the same way. Further, Harrod's analysis is saying that the level of extent aggregate saving is a constant proportion. Let me see, somebody is, I think, asking a permission. Okay. So the level of extent aggregate saving is a constant proportion of aggregate income. It means saving income ratio propensity to save is assumed to be a constant. Because it is a constant, that is why we do not have a difference between absolute and this relative analysis. Now, this portion itself is a constant. Okay, saving income ratio. If it is constant, then your investment to income ratio would also remain constant. So that is coming automatically because we say S is equals to I, then this variable and also the income investment to income ratio would also remain constant. So every time your acceleration to the economy would remain constant. Technical progress has been assumed to be labor augmenting or neutral. The labor augmenting could be there, the reason because they thought that they are giving this model for the developing countries, so that is labor augmenting because of that only. Another thing is that because Harrod says that the labor or the population which is being determined, exogenously or exponentially. Okay, so both ways they are coming up this labor augmenting technical progress function with this way. But overall, if I would say, the Harrod's model is following a neutrality of technical progress function. Hope you all remember what we studied in case of microeconomics. There were the three form of technical progress function. The one is capital augmenting, second is labor augmenting, and also this neutral. So we discuss about both Harrod and Hicks in that case. Okay, the Harrod is talking about only neutral technical progress function, which shows the isocon curve on the expansion path, where we have the proportion of the capital stock and also this labor, both are in the same proportion and giving you always a similar changes in the economy. So that is why when we do follow the saving income ratio, which is constant to you, so every time the investment income ratio would always constant, and this is giving you the further more savings to the economy and the same proportion of investment. So every time you are reaching to definitely on the higher position but in a same proportion. So that is the Harrod's neutrality of technical progress function. The requirements of capital and labor per unit of output are constant. That is, capital output and labor output ratios are assumed constant in this case. So that is important because if you go with the Solovian analysis, in Solovian analysis, of course, they are following this constant returns to scale, but every time because of the depreciation or diminishing returns would occur. So because of that, the steady state growth part would be a different analysis from this Harrod and Dormer's analysis. So this is generating diminishing returns in case of Solovian case. But the capital output and the labor output ratios are assumed to be constant in case of Harrod's analysis. The constant returns to scale operates, and this implies that the output increases at a constant rate. Now, the formulation of this model. How can steady state growth be achieved with fixed capital output ratio? This is important because we assume the capital output ratio is fixed, and then fixed saving income ratio, which is propensity to save also. It means APS and MPS both are similar. Oh, wait, guys. I need to keep my phone silent. And if it is get disconnected, please call me. That is on vibration. Okay. How can the steady state growth rate be maintained, or what are the conditions for maintaining the stable growth? Okay, so that is another question. With the fixed analysis or the fixed coefficients and the propensity to save, how we would reach on a stable growth analysis? How do natural factors put a ceiling on the growth rate of the economy? The natural growth factors, because we are talking about the natural resources. The natural resources, why this is important? Because we are assuming here one of the important assumption, that is the full employment. So how this natural resources would actually help you to identify what is your potential and how do you reach on the utilization of the capital in this situation. So here we have the few fundamentals of the Harrod's growth. The first, we have the actual growth rate. The actual growth rate, it means what we have actually, and on what characteristics we have to grow on the basis of given natural resources. So denoted by G, and the actual amount of saving and investments are available in the economy in this case, and can be defined as the ratio of change in income to the total income in a given period. So basically, we do call it mathematically, this is a chain rule method. Okay, so relative growth, we call it what? The relative growth, the change in y upon y. It means every time on the given growth, how much growth is being expanded in the economy. So that is actually the growth analysis, and this particular growth function would helping you for the longer in all the analysis on all the analysis of the exogenous models. The actual growth rate is determined by two factors here. The one is saving income ratio, and the second we have capital output ratio. These two have been taken as fixed in a given period. So both assumptions are fixed in this case. The relationship between actual growth rate and its determinants is expressed by the following equation. And the equation is the growth is now have a product relationship with this capital output ratio. The C is what? Your capital stock, the capital output ratio, and that should be equals to the small s. We do follow here the small s because we are talking about a marginal propensity to save or your saving income ratio. So I'm not writing here this s by y. Instead, we are writing here the small s. Okay, so GC is equals to small s, and this is basically explaining the relationship between this capital and the saving, and how this capital will induce the saving. If the C would come here, S by C, okay, how every time if capital stock is being invested, or this capital stock will have an increment because of investment, then how much this saving would rise. So over and above total savings, whenever will rise or the saving to income ratio would rise, then only your G rise. It means the growth is dependent on what the savings in the economy. So that is why the Harrod growth is focused more only on the saving portion. Okay, so the saving would rise, then only this growth would rise. So you can understand by these expressions too. The growth, as we have this relative growth analysis, that is change in y by y. And the capital stock we have, which is the capital to income ratio. So your capital would change when your income would change. Okay, so that relationship we have. And this change in K is nothing. This is your I. Okay, that is the investment. Because if you only take a single K, that single K is equivalent to K0. That is your initial capital stock. But when you will take the change in K, it means you're talking about K0 plus 1. So every time you have an increment in the capital stock. So this is giving an idea of change in K, and this change in K would be equals to this I. Okay, and divided by this is your relative growth or the change in income. So this change in income is a source of this investment. And then the small s we know that is s by y, and this gives you this equation now. This change in y by y multiply by, because GC you need to take, multiply by this I by change in y or the del y, and this whole is equals to s by y. So finally you will be getting this expression. If you'll reduce this, then I by y, this is giving you s by y. So ultimately your relationship is satisfied according to this Harrod's analysis and assumption. Then I must be equals to s in the economy in the present time. Present time, it means we are talking about before the steady state situation. So this is anywhere whenever you are at the initial stage, or you are in somewhere middle stage, or you are just near to your steady state growth. But all the situations which is before the steady state, this is giving you I is equals to s. So what is then warranted growth rate? The growth rate of economy when it is working at full capacity. So when we are assuming the assumption that we have the full employment part, okay, the full employment level in the economy. So growth rate, what we would like to achieve, that should be or must be utilizing all their resources. It means we should follow our potential in this analysis. So we need to utilize the machineries in an optimum way, the optimum use of manpower, full capacity growth rate, full employment growth rate, and the potential growth rate. So basically warranted growth rate is actually determining how much we require in terms of our resources, in terms of our capacity to acquire or achieve this growth or the actual growth in the economy. So this is denoted by GW here, and the rate of income growth required for the full utilization of a growing stock of capital so that the entrepreneurs will be satisfied with the amount of investment actually they made. So we need to have income growth, okay, and full utilization is needed, and we know as resources we have only this capital stock, so potentially this capital stock has to be utilized so that whatever is being invested by the entrepreneurs, this is giving you actually the savings, more savings for to the economy, and that is the only way to reach on the steady state. Then we have factors determining warranted growth rate. So two factors are important. The one is capital output ratio and then saving income ratio. Both are fixed in our analysis. Same way what we have discussed in case of actual growth rate. So here only difference is we would write G to GW and C to CR. Okay, and that is equals to again the small s. You can even write GW, that is equals to S by CR. Okay, so the same relationship. Our requirement of the capital, okay, if we GW, which is our warranted growth, okay, the what to achieve this warranted growth, we need more capital. Okay, what is the relationship to achieve this warranted growth? If the CR would go here, then it means we need more capital resources, and these capital resources is actually would give a rise to the saving income ratio, and once the saving income ratio would rise, this would be equals to this GW. So to understand this, we will go for the conditions for steady growth. We all know the Harrod and Dormer is actually talking about the balanced growth rate, the knife-edge relationship. It means all these parameters or the growth fundamentals, they should have this relationship. G must be equals to GW and C must be equals to CR. It means for actual growth rate, it is must that we are utilizing our entire capacity, okay, our potential, then only we can acquire this actual growth rate in the economy equals to this, or in other words, the capacity and a potential or a productive capacity must be equals to the investment we are making into the economy. The second is C, which is equals to CR. So this is our capital output ratio, okay, the capital stock what we are saying, and this is a required capital stock in the economy. So whatever capital investment we do want to make to acquire or achieve this growth rate, we should have this much of resources available in the economy. So both things or the both parameters must follow this equal relationship, and then only the steady state would arrive, or we say the balanced growth path of this Harrod and Dormers would be possible. So growth rate of income must be equal to the growth rate of output. The capital output ratio needed to achieve G must be equals to required capital output ratio to maintain GW given the saving coefficient. Okay, then actual investment must be equals to the expected investment. So these things are important and they are the conditions of this model. Then instability of growth. When this knife edge relationship would break, and these are the situations of it, we call it the path of disequilibrium also. When G would be greater than GW, okay, then automatically your capital stock would now be lower than required capital stock. And then the second situation says that the actual growth of actual growth,
मैम
yes, yes,
मैम स्क्रीन ब्लैक आ रही है.
black आ रही है. Okay, let me stop sharing and then again to come back. कब से ब्लैक आ रही है? ये अभी ब्लैक आना शुरू हुआ है या पहले से ब्लैक आ रही है?
मैम मतलब वो होता है ना, आप शो करते थोड़ी देर पहले शो हो रहा था वारंटेड ग्रोथ रेट वगैरह, वो भी नहीं, मतलब ब्लैक ही आ रहा है.
How is that possible? बाकी क्लास में तो कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं आता. चलो, let's try it again. ये सबके साथ हो रहा है या सिर्फ रूपल के साथ हो रहा है?
मैम सिर्फ अभी हुआ है.
हाँ, अभी हुआ है.
नहीं हो
ओके.
रहा मैम.
हाँ,
अभी हुआ
प्रीति?
मैम.
नहीं हो रहा मैम.
हाँ,
मैम क्लियर दिखाई दे रहा है.
क्लियर
नहीं
दिखाई
हो
दे रहा है. तो रूपल कहीं ना कहीं मुझे लग रहा है कि तुम्हारे नेटवर्क इशू है. तुम मोबाइल से देख रही हो?
मैम मेरा भी ब्लैक
मैं
है।
मोबाइल यूज कर यस मैम।
है
मैम
सब में
एक्चुअली दूसरा मोबाइल है, मतलब
हाँ,
मेरे
तो
मोबाइल
कुछ
की
ना कुछ
बैटरी
बेटा
लो है।
इशू स्क्रीन से रिलेटेड है आपका, ये सबके साथ नहीं हो रहा है, ये है ना। ठीक है, फिर भी मैं वापस शेयर कर रही हूँ, मे बी आपका प्रॉब्लम सॉल्व हो जाए। ओके, नाउ इट इज विजिबल रूपल।
यस मैम।
इट्स फाइन ना। Okay. So instability of
यस
growth we'll be
मैम।
discussing. The G whenever is greater than GW, then automatically the C would now be lower than the CR. Okay. The actual growth whenever is greater than the warranted growth. Warranted, our potential से आपने ज़्यादा growth कर ली, ठीक है? This is our potential. This is warranted. Fine. So हमारी potential से exceed हो गया this growth now. तो क्या होगा? The required actual capital resources now would be lower than the required capital resources. So basically this situation is indicating what the inflation in the economy or the boom period in the economy, because the actual growth scenario more than the potential would be responsible for boom, okay, or would be responsible for the cost push inflation, also this demand push inflation. Similarly here, if your actual growth is lower than your potential or the productive capacity, okay, then what happens? You're not utilizing your resources properly, and that is why the growth is less. Fine. So in that situation, you're actually not reaching to your full employment path. So you're below than your full employment path. So in this circumstance, your actual capital would now be available and required capital are less because your growth is less. So you required only less capital resources, but you have now over surplus of this capital resources. Now this will give you what the more supply in the economy and the situation of recession. So we can see here when the G is greater than GW, the growth rate of income is higher than the growth rate of output. Demand for output would exceed the supply of output, and economy would experience inflation in this case. And then the capital resources would now be lower because you require more capital resources. So the actual amount of capital falls short of the required amount of capital. So this is the cause of deficiency of capital resources. So adversely, this is affecting the goods to be produced because now producers would be discouraged to produce more. So automatically there will be fall in output, and then there will be scarcity of good. Then further, there will be the inflation because now resources would be available, or the capital would available now more costly, and that is why it is giving the rise to the cost push inflation, and that's why the output will be reduced in that case. So this analysis of C is lower than CR is giving you the result of cost push inflation, and this analysis when G is greater than this GW is giving you the result of demand pull inflation. Okay. Then we have when G is lower than GW, the growth rate of income is now less than the growth rate of output. Okay, so you're not utilizing your potential, more goods are available to sell, and income would be insufficient to purchase those goods. The reason, because now actual growth is less, and once actual growth is less, the people would be losing job, like what is happening today. We know the growth rate is what, and every time, every quarter, it is reducing for entire world. So the people would be losing job, and in that case their real income would also get declined, and once income would be declined, then you are not able to buy more things, and that is why the demand would decline further. So this is giving you the deficiency of demand, and we call it the overproduction problem. So Say's law of demand would not work out here because the supply is now access to the economy. This is giving what the situation of recession. So we do start with the recession actually. There is not always the situation of deflation. Even today also we have in the world economy that is recession. So once you reach on the deflation, it means you are about to reach on the market failure. So that is a worse condition than the recession. Here also, when C is greater than the CR, the actual amount of capital would be larger than, let me see, somebody has query or what? Okay, Bharat Agarwal is now coming. Hmm? Okay. So actual amount of capital would now be larger than the required amount of capital for investment. So the larger amount of capital available for investment would decrease the marginal efficiency of capital in the long run. See, this word is very important and we discussed in the assumptions too. When this marginal efficiency of capital is needed, they discuss the capital output ratio as a fixed proportion. But at the same time, they do look on depreciation also, okay? And that is why the term accumulation of capital is important, because accumulation